Board of Selectmen need to order, please. Monday, September 25th, 2017 at 6:30. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Yes, Mr. Spring.
I'd like to take and end up recognizing one of the community leaders who was president of the Little League. He was on the fire department for many years and was a selectman for 12 years. And he had the distinct unpleasure of having to deal with, you younger folks probably didn't hear about this, about the Battle of the Bales, when medical waste was being brought up in bales and buried in the junkyard on Hubbardston Road. He had to take and deal with that. He died on September 7th. His name is Albert Jack Straw. I'd like to take and recommend a moment of silence for this gentleman who, I mean, was very instrumental in asking me and having me volunteer to get involved in the community. So I'd like to take and recommend that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Spring. I concur. Let's take a moment of silence for Albert, please. Thank you, Will, for bringing that
Thank
to
you.
our attention.
Thank you for allowing me to.
Meeting minutes.
To make a motion to approve the joint meeting minutes for Monday, July 24th, 2017, as written.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
A motion, a second, any discussion? I see none, Cameron?
Yes.
Doug?
Yep.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, September 6th, as written.
Second.
Okay, a motion, a second, any discussion concerning September 6th?
I'm sorry, they're not numbered.
That's okay.
It's on the back.
Any other discussion?
No, they're not.
I see none, Cameron?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve Monday, July 31st, 2017 minutes.
Second.
I'm sorry, why are
A
mine?
motion, a second. Any other discussion? I see none.
Sorry.
Cam?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
Stupid.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve Monday, September 11th, 2017's minutes. Oh, did we already approve that one?
Nope. September 11th, I got it. Have a second?
A second.
Okay, a motion, a second. Any other discussion? See none, Cam?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
This can't be released, correct? Because it's still ongoing.
Not to be released.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the, hold on. Non-public minutes of June 13th, 2017, to not be released
Okay,
at this time.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Like it when they're.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any other discussion concerning the executive session minutes? See none, Cam?
This can't
I'm
be
gonna
released.
abstain.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
So, motion by, to the, okay. In its entirety.
Yes.
See how they, okay. I make a motion to approve the non-public minutes for July 31st, 2017 to be released in its entirety.
Okay, motion, do I have a second?
Second?
Motion is second, any discussion?
For Pete's sake.
None, Kim?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Do that one already. Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
Through July 24th.
I'm sorry, yep, I'm a little,
September 6th.
I did July 24th, no. I make a motion to approve the non-public minutes for July 24th, 2017, to not be released at this time.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion second, any discussion? I see none. Kim?
Mr. Chairman, this is for the 24th?
It is.
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
I vote yes as well.
Make a motion to approve the non-public minutes for September 6th, 2017, not to be released at this time.
A motion, do I have a second?
Oops.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Seeing none. Kim?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. We go on to new business. Introduction of new staff, Mr. Tenzini?
Mr. Chairman, Chief Dickey is not able to be with us today, but I would introduce to you Pat Kelly, if you would please, who has been hired as the part-time administrative assistant in the Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department.
Welcome aboard.
Yep.
And I would leave to Alan Mayo to introduce his new seasonal hire.
This is John Kelly, who started today as our new seasonal hire at the Highway Department. And hopefully he will get his licenses and move right on into full-time.
Great. Welcome aboard.
How are you? Good.
Okay, I'm going to open up the public hearing for a dangerous dog complaint for Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 146. Are all parties present? Yes,
Mr. Sean May.
Mr. May, thank you. And Mr. Clerk, law enforcement, do we have the dog officer here?
Not at this time.
Is she coming?
I have not heard back from her. I did have contact with her earlier last week, and we have discussed the approach that collectively her department as well as our department.
Okay. So you have the information that, from the dog officers, that, am I understanding that right?
Correct. I have what we discussed last week. I don't know if there were any changes due to the new appointment that came out of this month, but as far as my last knowledge, yes, sir.
Have you have anything new, Mr. Tenzini, on this?
No, just the materials that we presented, the particulars of Mr. May's complaint and the reports of the department were not submitted so that you would be hearing this for the first time from the complainant, the owner, and law enforcement.
Okay. I would like to hear from law enforcement first, if you don't mind. Maybe have any objections to that? No objections?
No.
Okay.
We fit eventually. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Town Administrator, my name is Officer Charlene Vancott. I'm a part-time patrolman for the Town of Templeton Police Department. Would you like me to read my whole report or just summarize? What would you like?
However you want to do it.
Okay.
You have the facts. We're listening to the facts.
I would prefer that you read the report.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Thank you. Is that all right, Mr. Chairman?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
On July 7th, 2017, I, Officer Vancott, was assigned to the Uniform Patrol Division of the Templeton Police Department for the 1800 to 02, that's 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift. At approximately 18:15, I was notified by dispatch to respond to 99 Bridge Street and meet the animal control officer regarding a past dog attack. I responded to the address and made contact with the animal control officer, who advised that on July 3rd, the resident, Mr. May, at 99 Bridge Street, apartment 3A, was walking his dog, a miniature dachshund, on Bridge Street when the suspect dog, who was owned by Mr. Kenneth McClure from 64 Bridge Street, which was secured to the porch, managed to break the wooden spindle from the banister of the deck, came across the street, and began to attack the miniature dachshund. Mr. May, who requires the use of a wheelchair, became entangled with the wire lead still attached to the dog, and both the wheelchair and Mr. May tipped over onto the ground. Mr. May states that he tried to protect his dog from the suspect dog, however, he was unable to, and he witnessed the dog biting onto his dog. Mr. Mee stated that he was yelling for help, which is when Mr. McClure arrived and assisted in separating the dogs. Mr. McClure inquired if Mr. Mee needed an ambulance, and Mr. Mee declined, however, wanted his dog medically evaluated. Mr. McClure assisted Mr. Mee and his dog into the McClure family van and drove them to Wachusett Animal Hospital in Westminster. Mr. McClure paid the balance due of $1,815.15 for services rendered for treatment to Mr. Mee's dog. On July 6, 2017, Mr. McClure was contacted by Wachusett Animal Hospital in attempts to collect another payment for further treatments to Mr. Mee's dog. Mr. McClure attempted to make arrangements for a payment plan, as he did not have the money to pay for services at that time, and the animal hospital advised they do not do payment plans. Mr. McClure advised he would be unable to pay for any further treatments to Mr. Mee's dog and had already paid payments for euthanasia if needed. I spoke with both Mr. Mee and Mr. McClure, who both confirmed the story advised to me by the ACO. I attempted to make contact with the Templeton animal investigator in regards to the rules regarding quarantine of the dog, with no contact made, and a voicemail was left requesting a return phone call. I contacted Wachusett Animal Hospital and spoke with staff, who also confirmed all previous stated facts. While speaking with Dr. Tarazuski, who was the vet on duty, she advised in her professional opinion Mr. McClure went above and beyond in regards to paying for services for Mr. Mee's dog. She advised he acted as any responsible dog owner would, given his dog causing injury to another dog. Dr. Tarazuski advised the condition of Mr. Mee's dog was deteriorating and that there was not a favorable outcome for the dog due to the injury sustained. At the time of speaking with Dr. Tarazuski, she advised that Mr. Mee's dog was currently in the operating room for a procedure, however, was suffering intermittent episodes of cardiac arrest and CPR efforts were being employed. On July 8, 2017, Mr. Mee came to the police station requesting a copy of the police report, and he advised that unfortunately his dog has passed away earlier in the morning. At this time, no charges are being sought against Mr. McClure, and any further actions would be at the discretion of the Templeton Animal Control Officer / Templeton Animal Inspector. Respectfully, Charlene V. Vancott, Patrolman, number 115.
Thank you, Ms. Officer Vancott. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Sure.
What was the additional valuation that was coming from the vet that was to be covered through a payment plan, but it was additionally declined? Do you have that number?
I don't have that. Unfortunately, the veterinary clinic, upon my request, would not release any documents to me.
Certainly.
They directed me to obtain the justifiable legal means of obtaining a warrant from a judge and going through the courts if I wanted to obtain any information regarding the care.
Certainly. Okay. And do you have any statements or anything from the dog officer?
So a majority of the first portion of my report was the details told to me upon my arrival, and then the animal control officer and myself went into Mr. Mee's apartment, spoke to him, obtained the same facts, then spoke with Mr. McClure, obtained the other facts. So all of the stories had the same facts
Okay.
outlining the details of the event.
Certainly. Thank you.
Was the dog quarantined for the 10 days?
That's a negative, sir. Unfortunately, from the date of the incident to the date that it was reported to us, was at least a 4-day period, I do believe.
Yeah.
So that was the first initial 4 days. Like I said, I did attempt to contact the then animal inspector to follow the procedure of having the dog quarantined.
Right.
I never received a phone call back, nor did the department, so as far as my knowledge goes, no, the dog was never quarantined, sir. However, the dog does have a valid rabies certificate, which I do have possession of. So the dog was vaccinated for rabies at the time.
And it was registered to the town?
That is, no, sir. Not for that dog.
What
There are
dog?
The dog in question, so I believe there may be a conflict between the name of the dog that was involved in the incident and another dog that is actually registered at that residence. So just to.
On the, which side? On the
on
Mr. Me side? or-
On the complaint, yes. So the email that was sent to the town, a dog was named. That is actually not the dog that was involved in this incident, but that dog is in fact registered and licensed with the town.
Okay.
Both dogs are?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And in your report, you said that the dog was on a spindle of some sort, or on a belt?
Correct. So the dog was secured to the residence by use of a steel commercial dog tethering device. It was secured to a wooden banister on a porch that juts out from the residence. So the dog was secured and confined to the property.
Okay. Was there a fence between, or was it just open?
No, sir, the house, like most houses in town, just abut right up to the roadway.
Okay. And Mr. May's dog was also on a leash, I would assume?
I do believe so, yes.
Right. Anybody else have any questions for Officer Vanko?
Has this dog ever done this before?
No, ma'am. This is the first incident altogether for this dog that we've received reports for at the police department. There have been previous incidents several years back involving other dogs. However,
Not for this dog.
not this dog specifically, correct. This is a new dog. We have never had any issues, no complaints for this dog.
Okay, thank you.
How old is the dog?
I believe the dog is approximately 18 months old,
It's a puppy.
so it is still
A
a
puppy.
smaller dog. Well, not smaller dog, but small in age. Hasn't quite matured yet.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'm good.
Anything else? Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Officer Vanko.
Mr. May, how are you, sir? I won't have you get up. You can be comfortable right there. Can you tell us a little of a story here?
Well, on July 3rd, I was taking my dachshund for a walk like I do every day for the last 18 years. I've lived over at my complex, and I've taken all 3 of my dachshunds that I've had, and I go into Green Lawn Cemetery every morning and take my route around like I always do, and I was turning in this particular morning, and it was a nightmare. It just, the dog latched onto my dog. I tried to pick it up and put it on my lap, and that's when the dog came up and knocked me out of my electric wheelchair that I buzz up and down the road with to walk my dogs. And I did yell for help, and I did everything I could.
Right.
I was all tangled up in leashes and whatnot, so even when I was on the ground, I was having trouble moving myself to even get away, so,
Okay. And the dog never bit you at all?
no.
All right. Any questions for Mr. May? Diane, any questions for Mr. May?
No.
Okay. Doug, anything?
Was there anything different about that morning that created different kind of circumstances, or was there any
No, it was
noise or construction or anything going on, or?
roughly the same time, same everything, same route that I always take and everything, and it was about 9 o'clock in the morning, roughly.
Mr. Chairman, so you said
Yes.
there was a delay in the reporting of the, or the officer said there was a delay in reporting of the incidents, I believe it was 4 days
Yes, sir.
after the fact?
Well, technically, I called on the 6th and nobody got out there till the 7th. I made 2 calls on July 6th, once in the morning and once in the evening.
And you agree with the story that the police officer recorded? Are those all the facts as you know them?
Well, the vet bills were a lot more than, I'm still paying the vet for those, which I'm working on something as far as that goes, but,
Certainly.
and I recently purchased another puppy about 3 weeks ago, and, I just don't want it to happen again. And,
Mr. May, what would you like to see out of this outcome?
I'm sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
John. Mr. May, could you tell me the total of the remainder of the bill?
The total bill altogether was $3,885. I have a remainder of $802 with $80 cremation fee.
And does that, does that include the 1,000, a little over 1,000 that Mr. McClure paid?
That is,
Oh,
Okay. I'll get to you
I'm
in a second.
sorry.
Well, just before you throw it up, so on, write some amounts.
Oh,
or
I'm sure that you'll be able to speak, so, okay, and when you said that you normally walked your dogs every day, and
every day, 3 or 4 times a day at least down that road.
okay, and
For
was
the last
this,
18 years, and I've never had a problem.
was this dog normally outside?
This was the first time that I seen this dog, was this particular day. I've seen their other dogs that they have, but not this one.
Okay. Okay, John, I'm sorry.
That's
Can you-
okay. No,
yeah.
thank you. Mr. May, what outcome are you trying to receive here? What outcome are you looking for?
Well, I just don't want to see something like this happen again. There's 2 elderly complexes on that road. We got people walking up and down all the time, and,
Okay.
I just think they could do a better job of securing their dog or putting it in some kind of a pen out back and keeping it away from the road altogether.
Okay. That seems very reasonable at this point. Do you have anything else to add, Mr. May?
Because next time it could be a kid, or it could, it could have been. It could have, I honestly believe my dog was protecting me. Otherwise, I can't say what would have happened, but
Okay. Do you have anything else to add, Mr. May?
no.
Mr.
Thank you.
McClure, how are you, sir?
I have a packet here with the vet bills that I paid for, the dog was in treatment, the letters to him from the town, my dog's rabies certificate, my dog's new license.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So this morning, my 9-year-old son, put out one of my dogs, my dog Maisie. The other dog, Brax, lives on the other side with my parents. The reason why he probably never saw Maisie is because Maisie's usually not on the side of my parents, where my 9-year-old son put her out because her restraint clip broke the day before. We were going camping that day at Otter River State Forest. She wasn't outside maybe 5 or 10 minutes when my oldest 16-year-old son was coming back in the house with Maisie and putting her in a crate that she had bit another dog. I went out, Mr. Me was on the ground. Me and my son assisted him back in his chair. Asked him if he was all right. His dog had been bitten. There was a puncture wound in its back hind leg. I asked him what he'd like us to do, if he needed an ambulance, if he was all right. He stated he was all right. He was feared for the dog. He was worried about the dog vet bills. I told him that we would take care of whatever we could. Then proceeded to get him and the dog into my wife's van. My wife, my 16-year-old son, Mr. Me, and the dog went to the animal hospital where they wouldn't even treat the dog until we paid $100, all right? That took 45 minutes because my wife only had $80 in cash on her. So they told us that they were gonna start treatment immediately at Wachusett Animal Hospital, which they didn't. They waited till they paid her. Later to find out they didn't even start treatment until almost 3 o'clock that afternoon, after I paid $1,815 deposit on the $2,400 quote they gave me for the puncture wounds that his dog received from my dog. They needed 75% or they couldn't do anything. I came up with $1,815 within hours to pay for this man's dog. Plus the $100 that my wife had to pay for the emergency room visit. And then on the day that Mr. Me decided to actually file the police report of the dog attack, when I couldn't come up with the additional $2,000 for the second surgery, because the first surgeries did not take because of the flesh around the wound. That was after he also opted out on the exploratory surgery that they suggested to make sure the dog didn't have any more internal injuries, because the other surgeries would have been pointless if the dog had internal injuries.
Don't interrupt, please, thank you.
So then I went and paid the additional balance of $614.64, which brought the total to $2,529.79. I also offered to have the dog transferred to Healthy Families in Troy, New Hampshire, because Wachusett Animal Hospital would not work with me on a payment plan for that second $2,000. He released the information to the other vet for him to be transferred there, and then asked me on the phone if I'd give him one more day of barely paying there. I paid the boarding fee, because it was just under $600, and then it was $618 when I was done, for her to stay one more day, and told him that if the dog wasn't gonna make it, that I would pay to have the dog put down. That I did everything in my possible power to make things right with him. Meanwhile, we'd been in conversation those first 4 days with no problems, talking about this isn't the way we wanted to be neighbors, and this is how we want to meet, as he was befriending me and my wife and my 16-year-old son over this horribly tragic event. My dogs have always been tied up. I've had big dogs and big breeds for 30 years, and have never had an incident with a dog bite. With any other dog or any person, I have a 5, a 7, 9-year-old, 16-year-old son, nieces and nephews, and tons of people that are at my house all the time, and have never had an issue with any of my dogs. She's restrained out back currently now to a 80-year-old oak tree. I have the means to furnish a pen. However, I have 4 sons at home. I work 60 hours a week. I'm trying to find the time to even dig a hole to put the fence up. It's pretty hard. I took $2,500 of my family's money to try to make this right for this man because of this incident that my dog caused, all right? The railing broke on my porch. You can come to my house and see the railing. It's still broken in the same spot because I haven't touched it. That dog's never on that side. That's the first time she's ever been over there, and I'm sorry that she wasn't attached to the right thing. But I felt that I tried to do, and he agreed up until I couldn't come up with the $2,000 that I was doing it, have done the right thing. Besides my dog being unlicensed, which she wasn't at the time, but neither was Mr. Me's dog.
Yes.
Whatever fines associated with that, I totally understand.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Me.
She is licensed
Second.
today.
Mr. Me. Okay.
And he has walked by my house for 3 times a day for 18 years. That's over 11,000 times he's been by my house without an incident. If you're gonna fault my dog for the one time that she got broke loose on anybody and never had any other issue with any little kids or older people, I think is very unjust. Never mind the timely fashion from when this happened, when he reported it, when the selectmen or the town responded to his complaint, which was over a month. I must say I do appreciate you rescheduling it from last meeting to now because I couldn't be here to defend myself. But I've tried to do everything what I thought was morally right in this situation. And he's still going by my house with his new dog. So I don't understand
No, I haven't.
He's-
how dangerous and
I'm
how
not gonna
afraid
let
he
him lie.
is.
I haven't been anywhere near your house. I don't
Mr. May,
even drive
Mr. May,
by it.
Mr. May, stop. Okay, sir.
I mean, a dog officer never came and quarantined my dog. No one besides Mrs. Van Cott and the first woman that showed up the first night had any contact with me regarding this incident.
Okay, and we're talking about Maisie at this
We're
point?
talking about Maisie.
Okay, and how old is, Maisie's how old?
Maisie's 2 years old.
She's 2. And what kind of dog is that?
She's a boxer mix.
Boxer mixed with,
She was a.
I don't know, we rescued her from Templeton, Amisha Haven. The
Okay.
adoption paper's in there too.
okay.
Just over a year ago, like 16, 17 months ago, we rescued her from town here.
And Brax is how old?
8, 7
Okay.
or 8.
So he's an older,
Yeah.
bigger dog, I would assume? What kind of dog
He's
is
a
that?
lot bigger than her.
What kind of dog is that?
He's a pit bull.
He's a pit bull,
Yep.
okay.
But he's a companion dog to elderly people. He's an old man.
Mr. McClure, are you taking Maisie for any kind of training?
No,
We're looking into
Ow.
it. We've talked to a few people. but
I
it's-
can't afford it right now. I can barely afford to put food
No,
on
I
my
was just-
table after
no,
this hit.
I was just,
No, I
I was
haven't.
just curious, I'm not.
My kids wanted a dog. We went to the local shelter instead of buying a dog. And now we have this dog who sleeps with my children every single night.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
What steps have you taken since this incident, regardless of the pay, to secure your dog and secure and make sure this incident doesn't take place again?
So she's on a 300-pound tether now, attached to a tree out back because I haven't made the pen yet. For the first 3 weeks, we put a muzzle on her. But I'm not gonna watch my dog in my backyard have to struggle pulling a muzzle off her face. So she's currently just tethered out back.
Is your backyard fenced in?
It is not.
It's just open?
It's somewhat fenced in,
Okay.
but not fully.
And what steps have you taken to secure Brax?
The same steps we always have. He's now, the tether is still on their side of the house that she was originally attached to. It's just now attached to the actual post as opposed to the cross railing that holds the banisters. And he's always been attached to that. Every dog we've ever owned has been attached to that same porch. We've had Rottweilers, other pit bulls, Brax. We now have Maisie.
And at the time of the incident, like you admitted to, your dog was not registered at that time?
She was not.
Okay.
She's not licensed with the town. She had her rabies shot. She was not licensed with the
Okay.
town.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would request that we recognize the officer and see if the story cooperates with what the gentleman said.
Okay.
So it does. Just one step further, Mass General Law, I don't know if you all have received a copy of it regarding nuisance or dangerous dog orders. Section
There isn't in there.
157A, subsection 2, the
And
breed
that
of
was
the,
in your packets.
the breed of the dog cannot be considered, so.
Say that again.
The breed of the dog cannot be considered as part of deeming whether or not the dog is dangerous. So i.e., whether we are talking of a large breed dog, small breed dog,
We understand.
golden retriever, cocker
Yep.
spaniel. That is in fact true. I have since been out to the McClure household. There is a pen or the parts required to assemble a pen. However, unfortunately, the family just has not had the time due to running a restaurant, trying to, put together the time to work to kind of build back up their funds. The dog is secured, like he said, to an oak tree that is, if the dog breaks the oak tree, I would be very, very impressed.
Okay.
Nice.
She wears a full-on harness.
Correct.
She has a full body harness. She doesn't wear a collar.
So the dog in and of itself was not aggressive towards myself when I went there the secondary time for a follow-up investigation. So the steps have been taken in place, they just have not been implemented at this time. I did talk to Dr. Nygaard, who is a veterinarian in town, speaking with her regarding the injury sustained, due to the size difference, is a major part of the unfortunate outcome. When you have something smaller in stature versus something bigger, as well as the disproportion, unfortunately, the injuries sustained aren't going to be that as if the dog breeds were of equal caliber.
Gotcha.
And Dr. Nygaard did state that, you know, unfortunately, Wachusett is known for not working with individuals for payment plans, and that she or another vet may have chosen a different treatment path given the injuries of the dog initially.
Okay. Thank you, Officer Vanko. I appreciate your insight. Does anyone else have any other questions? No other questions?
No.
Okay. Thank you for explaining all the facts of the case. I do appreciate it. It means a lot for us to understand. Obviously, we didn't have any of this coming in here, so there was no preconceived notions or any type of our minds made up, so to speak, as far as what way that this board would go either way. We wanted to hear the facts of the case on both sides, your side, Mr. May's side, and obviously the officer's side, and come up with hopefully a solution. Why I asked Mr. May, what his overall outcome, what he was looking for on this outcome, which I think is important to at least add my decision-making process, and I would think the rest of the boards as well, concerning this terrible tragedy that took place on Bridge Street. Do you guys have anything else to add, or?
I think I do thank you for coming in and especially prepared to present for this hearing. And it is unfortunate that there's a loss of a dog life in this event. And hopefully we can see what the outcome is and work from there.
Okay.
I think that we have to make a motion.
We do?
So, the outcome is tragic, and I'm sorry for the loss of your dog, Mr. May. I believe that Mr. and Mrs. McClure did everything that they could, and came out right away and helped. And I think that Mr. McClure paid as much of the bill as he could. And what Mr. May would like, I believe that the McClures have already been doing. And I'd like to give them some time and have the pen put in. And our dog is already secured. I don't believe that your dog needs a muzzle.
I don't
It's
either.
cruel.
I agree.
It's cruel. And I prefer not to see that. And if I could, I'd like to offer some assistance with helping you with the pen, but that's personal for me. But I would like to make a motion that you need to have the pen up within 30 days. And I am sorry if that's
No,
not
I
enough
was-
time, but we really need to have that done.
I understand that.
And that would be, I would like to just make that motion. And again, that would be my motion.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to add to her motion?
No, not to the motion. I'll second the motion. I mean, I love all dogs, but they do have to be properly, controlled, and they can't, be allowed to break free and run loose, so. And, you have done, an amazing job responding to the horrible incident.
Yep. I have a motion and a second. Do I have any other discussion?
I would like to say that I think that that is the proper way to go to control the dog and to secure it. Unfortunately, there was an incident where there was a loss of a dog life, and moving forward, we don't want to see any of that issue happen. I do applaud your effort to make things right. I think that's a noble act in itself, that you did not disappear, that you're active in trying to resolve this to the best of your ability. And I hope this outcome is to prevent any further issue, is something that Mr. May can agree with as well. Because we don't want this issue to happen to anybody else as well.
Great, motion and second, any other discussion? I see none. Kim?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. And then obviously before we wrap the hearing up, Mr. Mayor, I do sincerely apologize for the loss of your animal. I'm a dog owner myself, and I understand. But I also, you have to look at all sides, and I think, like Ms. Brooks said, I think with the proper things in place and the age of the dog, I think things should work out. Mr. McClure, thank you so much for all your efforts in what you were doing with Mr. May and working with Mr. May.
I appreciate what he did for me too. I really want to say that to him now.
I know you do.
Okay.
I know you do, and he knows you do,
Yeah, okay.
okay?
If I didn't say that, you're responsible people and dog owners.
Yep.
I mean, we feel horrible that it happened.
I'm sure you do.
I have
She's also
motion-
my family dog, and I try to be a very responsible person in my own life. Including my dog, I thought taking responsibility openly and paying the bill. Thank you.
You did the right thing.
Thank you, sir.
I take motion to close the hearing.
Second. I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Okay, great. Do you have a second?
Second.
Motion to close, second. Any other discussion? I see none. Kim?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
John,
Diane?
can I just have 5 minutes?
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Yes. Public hearing has been ended. Stabilization Fund presentation by the advisory committee. Officer Vancott, thank you so much for coming in. It was really a pleasure. Thank you so much for your testimony.
Sorry, I
Thank you. Kim.
That's
Kim
okay.
Forts, nice to meet you.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, how are you?
Very good, considering. First of all, I'd like to take and thank the chairman as well, so the rest of the board for allowing the advisory committee to present our voted stabilization policy that we have had since 2013. We've reviewed this and updated it as the town information has changed. We're reaching out with this because we know that this is needed going forth for a bond rating. We both have a common goal to establish stabilization policy for our community, and we want to take and end up showing our information. And also, let me start off with how our policy was developed. Our policy was developed using policies already developed by other communities as advocated by presenters at the Association and Town Finance Committee annual meetings, and making it relevant to our community. They also ended up pointing out that the policy needs to be in writing, relative to your community. A good policy stands long with the Board of Selectmen and Finance or Advisory Committees' participation and acceptance. We both accept it. That's why we're reaching out to you to end up doing it.
Yep.
It should be kept short and simple, not very wordy, etc., and basically to the points. Let me just say that the document that you have in your packet, and I don't understand why, because that was not sent as a draft. It was sent as our policy that we have for us to end up starting dialogue and coming up with one for the community. So I saw on the website that it was listed as a draft document. It's not a draft. We have voted a number of times on this particular policy on a number of boards over the last couple of years. We just updated it, like I said, with the information.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just go over some highlights as to what the document's all about. It's taken end up addressing significant ordinary unforeseen expenses. It's like a bank account, like anybody has a bank account, just in case of emergencies. It's helped to take, especially when you have an economic downturn. A community that I like to end up pointing out to is Lunenburg, who during 2008, during our downturn, it affected their tax valuation, which affected their tax rate, and they were able to manage that and not directly impact their whole community as far as the operation and supporting the existing town hall functions. As you can see, it's a safety net for us. The common goal for most communities is to have 5 and 10% of the annual operating budget. It should be ongoing. It's there that they can end up, like I said, it should be there. So it also helps us with our municipal borrowing. It is one of 7 factors that the bond rating folks use. Let me go on to the second page, because that's basically, the back page is basically a supplement that they can show you where we are as far as the community. During from 2015 up until about couple of weeks ago, we have gotten information as far as what the stabilization fund balance is, the general stabilization fund balance is from the finance team here at Town Hall. It's changed 4 times. It was originally done, and I look at that as it's on the DOR site. It's 125. Last October at the special town meeting, it was listed at 145, and as you can see, it's progressed now. The last number that we got from the accountant, that is $95,510. That's less than, that's 0.7%. When you look at the rating system per se from the bonds people, anything 1% or less, they give a 5 rating. A 5 rating is very weak, and it impacts the overall, because they do a weighted average to establish the bond. Even against the 18 budget, it's also very low percent. So we want to point those out. That's our indicators as to how we're doing. Things that we have to take and end up doing in addition to establishing the policy is that we have to be committed as a community that when we do have free cash, we allocate some into the general stabilization so that it helps during any downturn. We also can end up, another way to end up doing other than that is actually put it, some towns put it in there actually as part of the budget. You can actually budget money within your town budget to put in stabilization. We would like to have dialogue on this as well as our policy. Any data that I've looked at or talked about tonight is either from the DOR, Data Bank, the MMA website, Standard & Poor's, our town website, or some other town's website in developing this and end up presenting it before you. Before I end up going to any questions from the board, or if the chairman wants to open it up to anybody in the community, because we pass these out for the folks here so they can end up seeing what it is, what we're presenting here this evening. I'd like to take and end up asking to get on the select board's next agenda. We have another presentation talking about our roles and responsibilities, and we didn't want to take and have back-to-back presentations here tonight. We want to just have that one. If we can end up getting a commitment to take and end up doing that, we'll talk about that. So I'll open it up to any questions that the select board has that I can end up answering as far as our policy.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to table this to a workshop so that we can discuss this in a better setting and in a less formal discussion, because I believe that this discussion is something that would take considerable amount of time that, unfortunately, since we have so much to do tonight, that wouldn't be applicable.
I have a motion, have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Kim?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Mr. Sprang, thank you so much for
Yeah,
bringing this
just
to our
on the
attention.
discussion, we'd be coming to that and end up discussing it. I'd like to take and end up seeing us have dialogue on the whole financial policy, which is another document that we have and that we could bring to you at a somewhat later date.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I don't know if there's anybody in the community who wants to ask any questions also, if the chairman would want to do that.
I think we're gonna put this into the workshop, and we're gonna drive forward from there, but thank you so much for the information. I really do appreciate the hard work you guys are doing. Blood drive for the Knights of Columbus? Mr. Tenzini?
I don't know if there's a representative present. There is, Mr. Chairman, in the back row.
Hey,
Hey, George Andrews.
yes,
I'm from the Auto River. Lance Columbus, 2536. We are planning on doing our annual boot drive on the 7th of October, and we're going to be using
boot
the intersection of Baldwinville Road, South Road, no, it's not South, yeah, South Road, Hubbardston Road, and 101. That's the area we usually use. If it's all right with the select board. And we do have basically handicapped children. If they need wheelchairs or ramps and vans and stuff like that, we've been doing it for many, many years.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
George, how is that gonna change this year with the one-way?
That won't
Like
affect
where
us.
you're normally, I'm
All
just
we'll
trying to
do
think
is
of where you're normally
put one hand
situated.
further down the road to be at Wellington Road, that's usually up at South Road on this side. And anybody coming out of South Road will go one way or the other, there'll be people there.
Would you be normally standing at Wellington Road?
No, not usually.
But will you be standing at Wellington
It
Road?
will be, yes. Yes, because people coming up 101, they go out Wellington Road.
I guess I'm a little concerned about that because of the hill.
But we all have vests on, we all have.
I know, but it's blind, a little bit more blind right there.
Well, you could
Well,
focus further up towards the end
Yeah,
of
I guess
South
I
Road,
w-
right? So
My
past the
preference
country
would be
store.
that it be further up.
I mean, not at Wellington,
Yeah.
further up Wellington Road?
Yeah, where the
Behind the
intersection
police
in
station?
Well,
Winchendon South
no,
is.
no, further up Dudley, towards south.
Yeah, that's what we usually have. We don't usually go down as far as
Okay.
Wellington.
Okay.
But like I say, we won't miss too many people.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
No,
Okay.
No, we'll make
I-
sure that there's nobody down that end all. We have our meeting tomorrow night, I'll bring that.
Okay,
send it to them.
if you wouldn't mind bringing that up, George, I would appreciate
There's
that.
no problem, Diane, I can take care of it.
I would make oh, I'm
I have
sorry,
a question
Doug.
first. The funds, are they used locally, or do they go into like a national bank and get distributed?
What it does, it goes to the state, but every council, every town, if there's a handicapped person, handicapped child, anybody can apply to KFC. They don't have to be Catholic, they can be Protestant, they can be, we've done that for everybody. And it's something that they've done many years, and, it's just
Yeah,
a Tootsie
we've
Roll
done-
ride. They do it Catholic churches only for that reason, because it makes it Columbus. But, yeah. Just so you know, a lot of it, some of it has gone in the past, believe it or not, they have two areas in the state that they actually have a horse farm that the handicapped children go to, and they have their two horses. One is Chris and one is Columbus.
nice.
That was something they've done for the last 3 years. It's a new place that they've done.
We appreciate that you
thanks.
do this, George, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I make a motion to approve the boot drive permit for the Otter River Knights of Columbus for October 7th from 8 a.m. to 12
Oh, no, yeah.
noon.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second?
Have a motion, second. Any other discussion concerning the boot drive, Auto River Knights of Columbus? I see none. Kim?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Mr. Tenzini, just how we have the license?
She does not have that in here, no.
No, I'll get that tomorrow. Is she gonna be
She
in
was-
tomorrow?
I believe so.
Okay.
She was out ill today.
I'll check with her tomorrow. common vic license for Dunkin' Donuts at 212 Patriots Road in East Templeton.
Do you know if Holly has everything for this, or is she waiting for anything?
To the best of my knowledge, she has
Everything?
everything.
I'll
We
make a
should
mo-
make the motion pending though, just to.
Usually,
so.
usually she would say, but
But if you made it approved, subject to the receipt of any pending reports
Yeah.
okay, that's
that are
okay
approving, then that'll be
Okay.
fine.
I make a motion to approve the common victualler's license for Route 13 Donuts LLC, DBA Dunkin' Donuts, 212 Patriots Road, East Templeton, pending any information that is needed.
Second?
Motion second, any discussion? See none. Kim?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Do you have the original, or is that?
I don't have the original, no. I have a copy, and I think if we can get that signed,
We can come
we
in.
can work with that.
Yep, get that
Yeah,
tomorrow.
that's
Tomorrow.
fine with me.
Okay.
She'll be in the morning.
Okay, sounds good. The calendars of CY 19 Medex rates.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask if we can pull Chapter 90 funds ahead for Mr. Mayo,
Sure, can you?
just so that he can get in and discuss what he needs to discuss,
Okay.
if that's all right with you. Are you ready to?
You guys okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, chapter 90 funds, Mr. Mayo, can you come on down?
I don't want to hold you up too long. I know these meetings get long.
What's your memo? Yes.
Good evening. I have prepared a memo for you for your Chapter 90 this year. We have done a considerable amount of looking into the roads. We have, as everyone knows, an awful lot of roads that need quite a bit of TLC, as I'll call it. My best guess for this year for Chapter 90, I have 5 different projects for you to look at. Some of them are a mix and match between actual road construction and also planning and some of those kind of things. So I want to go through them one at a time. In my memo, you'll see the remaining engineering of Royalston Road in the amount of $163,352.50.
Is that the last installment of that engineering?
Actually, I'm gonna explain that to you, because the paperwork that you'll look at for your Royalston Road, Chapter 90, has a different figure on it. The $163,352.50 is what you have already committed out of your Chapter 90 money, and also what will be the remaining amount to finish the project. You've committed a hair over $53,352 from last year, which has not been paid because they haven't finished that service yet. They're finishing it now, and it will be coming up shortly. They're estimating that your last amount is the request I'm asking tonight. It's $109,000 and some change. That would finish your project for the engineering. That will complete your design on your Royalston Road. Right now, we're hoping to get to 75% design this fall. We're still waiting for comments from Boston on the 25% design. And then we're gonna have a public forum, and the engineers will come out and talk about the project and address some of the comments from the state, and then we can move right into that 75% design pretty quickly. So, we have committed currently to Royalston Road, $327,850. So, it's important that we commit the last phase. You've already committed a good amount of money. If we don't commit the last phase, then we're backing up and we're not getting done what we've already committed. Royalston Road, I'm sure there are some residents here from Royalston Road tonight that will speak highly of the fact that it is in deplorable condition. And we're really working at trying to push that project forward. The town has committed a lot of funds already, so I respectfully ask that you approve that request so we can finish the engineering services and get the state to move that project forward. The second item is road surface management system. We've done some considerable research on road surface management. I've worked with Carter on this quite a bit. I have some brochures, so I've done some homework. These come from the town of Spencer. They used a company called Stantec. It is the cheapest that I have found in looking around pricing-wise. What they do is they do a full study of all of your public town-owned roads, your ones that have been approved at town meeting. They give you a whole lot of information in their study, and what they do is they prioritize your roads and how you need to manage them. They'll tell you which roads need crack sealing, and which roads need chip sealing, and which roads need full depth construction, and which roads need fill and mill. So there's a lot of things that you can get out of this. It will also give you a direction to move your pavement management forward. My hope is that we can get away from doing so much of your complete rebuild, your complete reclaim and construction, because the cost is so great to do that you really can't do anything else. So with the pavement management system, in time, we can get to that point, I hope, where we can manage some of those roads a lot better than we're managing them. This is a very, very good program. There are a lot of towns using it now. Spencer's using it. Ashburnham's using a similar model. Winchendon has a similar model. Some of them have paid a little bit more money for it. Some have paid a little bit around what I'm asking. I really think this is important for the town to get a handle on where they need to manage funding moving forward so that we can get our roads under control.
And, quick question with that, Alan, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
What exactly is the process? They just bring engineers out here, they scan the roads, and then they maintain it? Is it an annual thing? Is it a one-time fixed cost?
They do come out here. This actually is set up in a 3-year plan. I'm hoping they can move it along a little bit quicker than that. The $20,800 that I'm asking for is for the entire 3-year plan. Once you go to Chapter 90, it pays for all of it. So we can keep rolling the Chapter 90 and pay for it as they do it, but at least you'll have it approved and ready to go.
Yes.
They will map out all your catch basins, all your drainage, all your water lines, your sewer lines. They will take a look at the condition of your roads, and they will prioritize those roads for you. So they will actually give you a list of roads and say, this is what you should do with those roads, and these are the priorities, and then you work the funding through the program in order to get the best bang for your buck. So it's no longer your director or a highway person going out there and trying to look at all your roads and trying to get the best guess estimate. This will tell you.
Put some science behind it. Right?
Yes, with some science as to what is the best choices.
And do they give you any, is there any technology platform that they give you? Is there like a computer system that they use, or is it just really a list, general?
No, they do have a computer system, that'll be right on our computers where we can go in and we can go right to a road or right to a certain thing and dot it in, and it will pull it up and blow it up for you. It will also give you, all your lengths of roads, so you know exactly what you have for roads, your condition of your roads. It gives you an awful lot of information, and if anybody wants to look at these, I can leave them at the selectman's office. You can
Yes,
certainly
please
take
do.
time to look through them and see what you think, but I think it's a great program, and I think the town doesn't have anything in place right now. I think it's $20,800 of Chapter 90 money well spent.
Okay.
What do you mean,
Thanks, Alan.
what do you mean by mapping out, water and sewer lines?
It
Are they
will
gonna,
actually- it
are they
will
gonna
actually
talk
tell
to the
you
light
where-
and water department, or?
They can scan them in and they take information from off of the light and water
Okay.
stuff and everything too, and they will be able to tell you exactly where everything is. They'll locate everything.
To the extent the maps on file are accurate.
Right.
So you're- I'm sorry.
To the extent the maps on file are accurate. So if they're provided a map from sewer or water and they import that into this, if the original data they got that's off, that will be off a little bit. They're not going to go and detect everything.
I will also tell you that when you're doing any construction or road work, the first thing you do is you call DigSafe. I don't know if any of you are familiar. And that is the same reliability. They contact the utilities, and the utilities give them what they have for information. So if you're doing it now that way, it's not gonna change in here. It does give you a lot more information.
Oh, great.
Excellent.
Must be on some type of CAD system. Yeah.
Item number 3 is the lower end of South Road from Starfire Ave to right around the water tank. The reason I have chosen that road to try to work on is because it is a short stretch of road, doesn't have a lot of drainage work to get it done. As we get further up South Road, you've got a whole lot of drainage work and issues that we're gonna have to address. So that's why I cut it off there. And it's something that we can afford to do out of Chapter 90 this year, where we know we're gonna have to work on South Road moving forward. It's one of the roads that are in pretty bad condition.
Now, when you say around that to the water tank, are you doing the full turn, or is it stopping halfway through the turn?
No, it'll be through the full turn,
Okay, because that's awful, so.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. Bridge Street, I'm looking to cold plane and top coat the two worst sections, one being right in front of Green Lawn Cemetery, and one being further up near Hospital Road. I don't know if anybody's driven up Bridge Street, but it is atrocious. Again, it's a fix. Until we can get this in place and we can really come up with a plan. The other plan with Bridge Street is that I have been talking with the Light and Water Department, and they have been talking, just hashing around at this point, the possibility of paying for a round of engineering costs to redo that road. So we don't wanna go in and do a whole reconstruction on that road. We couldn't afford it to begin with, and so, in talking with the Light and Water, they thought it would be nice if they could just smooth a couple of sections, just to buy us some time, 3 or 4 years until we can, as you know, with a Mass DOT, it takes 4 to 5 years to get it through the whole process. So, that's the thought with Bridge Street. Central Street is a very cheap fix, and it is tagged on the end of the 68 project that they're working on now. It comes right down through Baldwinville Center, where all your businesses are, and that, so I thought that would be a good spot to try to do some work. Bridge Street and Central Street are kind of in the same area, and that's one of the reasons I also lumped them together, because as the contractor comes out and he cold planes and paves those sections, it's better for him if they're close by, so we try to kind of work that too. These streets also went through light and water and sewer for a look to see what kind of structures we have underneath and how old they are and what shape they're in. And Light and Water gave me the go-ahead and said, yes, everything looks good under there, we're not planning to repair anything. Everything that are under those streets are fairly newer. We also went down through Central Street and pulled all the catch basin covers and cleaned them and inspected all the catch basins, and they're in good shape. So we're not wasting putting hot top over something that we're gonna dig up next year, hopefully.
Okay.
We have done all the necessary look ahead to look at all that infrastructure.
Could you explain to me what cold planing is?
Cold planing is is what they're doing on Route 68, Diane. They call it milling, but it's kind of like, they come in and they just take whatever amount off the top that they want to take off. In this case, it'll be close to 2 inches. They mill it, or they grind it off
Yeah.
the top, and then they come in and they pave over. So cold planing is when they mill that asphalt off the top and smooth it. And it also gives the asphalt that you're putting down something to adhere to, something to grab.
And how long does that last?
Um,
I mean, it's just a Band-Aid?
No, Central Street is not a Band-Aid. Central Street will last a long time. That is exactly what the state is doing with their section, and
Okay.
they'll get a good number of years. I'd say 15 years or better out of that anyway.
Assuming you crack seal it and treat it properly in the future.
And again, that's what brings up this, if we can get a plan in place to crack seal. We haven't crack sealed for years, so.
So the difference, okay, so you're cold planing Bridge Street and Central Street, but you're
Reclaiming South
reclaiming
Road.
and paving, so what does that mean?
Reclaiming South Road means we will reclaim everything right down through the pavement that's there. It's the same process as milling, sort of, but it's reclaiming, and what it does is it takes the full depth of the asphalt and chew it up. And then they regrade the whole road and then they pave it.
So
And that's really what I was alluding to
where are you gonna
earlier.
start from?
From Sapphire Ave, which
So-
is where
so
they
that-
just.
So when you do that corner right there, that always gets that huge frost heave, is that, like, does reclaiming stop that from happening?
Yes, what reclaiming will do is they'll come in and they'll grind that asphalt right
All
down
the
to
way
the dirt,
down?
and then they'll grade it and they'll
Okay.
fix that submaterial before they pave over.
Sorry, excuse my
No.
ignorance.
Absolutely.
But again, speaking from what I was talking about earlier, that's what we're trying to avoid, because those are the roads that cost you so much money. When you have to reclaim and repave, that's where you're spending a lot of money. If you look at Central Street, you're milling and paving top coat, you're spending only
How long ago was South Road done?
years,
70s.
way back. Yeah,
The 70s? That?
Steve Manty probably, yes. Yeah.
I thought it was,
South Road was.
earlier, not
was-
earlier, later.
South
than-
Road was done from Templeton Center to Sapphire Ave recently. in
Oh,
recent
okay, maybe
years.
that's what I'm thinking
But that's
of.
that's why I wanna pick up there and move up.
Okay.
Well, you have a question?
Yeah, through the chair, I'd like to ask Alan a question. This is kind of late in the season. Do we think we're going out for bid and being able to get that now, or are we gonna have to push that off till early the spring to end up getting some of what you're proposing to take and get done? I mean, these construction companies are really busy at this time of year. I mean, this is difficult, and I understand that this is pretty well into the season here.
Through the chair, we have already been out to bid for these services. I have been in contact with the vendor that won the bids, and they have tentatively scheduled it in to try to fit it in this fall as long as weather holds. They've been waiting for me to get this through this process and see. If it's approved here, we have to send it to the state. I'm hoping for a quick turnaround there. Our vendors are looking to do this in the fall. And the 3 roads are very short roads, won't take them long, so they are helping us by squeezing it in. So Will is right, it is late in the year, but we are trying to make provisions. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't mean the project goes away, it means it moves to the spring, but I'm hopes that it will happen this fall.
Is there a deadline that, or isn't there a deadline that you can't have like hot top anymore?
Yeah, once you start to get into November, late November,
Okay.
It depends on, again, it depends on the weather and it depends on when
So
the
there's not like
plants-
this thing where they say November 15th, you're all done.
Only if the
It
plant
varies.
says November 15th, we're shut down.
It's all run by the plant.
Okay.
And as long as they've got good weather, they're making asphalt because they wanna make money, so,
Okay.
they don't shut down unless they have to, so.
And except for the adjustment factor for the price of the bituminous material, these unit prices are all good through June 30th of 2018.
Okay. And then my only other question is, we had already approved previously for the Royalston Road project. So if we approve this 163, 352, isn't that duplicating?
You will be approving.
As long as you
Or-
know, make your motion to increase the approved amount to the 163,
Yeah.
the math will be fine.
Oh, all right, I just don't want to duplicate
Right.
and then be out of money for, another project.
Right, so if the motion, for instance, if you find these agreeable, if the motion, for instance, were to
Just say increase.
authorize the use of Chapter 90 funds in a total amount for engineering of Royalston Road of 163,352.50, now you've got that inclusive.
Okay.
And the other thing is that I would respectfully suggest that the motion authorize either the superintendent or myself or the chairman, subject to report back to the board, an additional amount of up to 10% on these construction projects for contingencies, because these are unit estimates. When you get out there, if you use an extra little bit of asphalt, we can't stop, because the original estimate was a little bit under. And by allowing us a contingency of 10%, whomever you want to authorize to do that, requiring a report back to you, it gives Ellen the flexibility he needs in the field, yet lets you keep your finger on when and if any of that contingency was used.
So just for public notification, the beginning balance for Chapter 90 is 433, 479.39, and if these are approved by the board, these costs, the remaining balance approximately would be 96,025.97 because of any contingency and so forth.
Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Mayo?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Alan, as always, thank you for keeping town's budget in mind and really keeping the forward thought process. It's something that lacks in town government is, thinking ahead, thinking for the future, and I applaud your efforts reaching out to the sewer and water departments to make sure that we're not digging up roads and then you're gonna have to cut them up anyways 2 years down the road. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve, well, you wanna do this in all 5 together, or you wanna do this in one?
We can't, well,
Whatever you're most comfortable with for the clarity of the motion.
I just want to make sure that it's just,
I would,
it's just increasing that amount for
okay, so we'll do that one
Royalston
separate
Road,
then.
to
I'd
make
like to
sure
make a
that we
motion
don't.
to increase the Royalston Road project to the amount allotted of $163,352.50. And
And
If you would authorize me or
yeah, you need to have that
to sign the documents.
to be signed by
to be signed by Mr. Carter Terenzini.
the gentleman. So move. Second. Sorry.
A motion second, any other discussion? Yes, Will?
Yeah, just to add to what Alan was saying, to answer Diane, and closing the plant, if we end up having a hard winter and we could end up seeing the plant close before Thanksgiving. There was a couple of years ago, right, Alan, where the plant actually stayed up almost till Christmas. So all you have to do is hope for a very mild weather so that we can get this project and they stay open.
I'll hope for
I'm
that,
hoping
Will.
that anyways, because of his rolling stock. Yes,
In some communities that have a healthy economy, they actually match Chapter 90 funds for roads.
That is correct.
Yep.
And
I don't understand what that
if
means.
they had
Come up with local.
actually put that black stuff, Alan, what's that called then?
hot top?
That black stuff you fill, crack filler.
Crack
If they had done South Road, the road from the water tower to past Wallen's down to St. George's
Mm-hmm.
old house, would not be in half the bad shape it is now.
You're right.
It was a crack an inch wide,
No, you're right.
and Bud said he didn't like that stuff because it was slippery if you're on a motorcycle. That I understand, but you don't ride down the middle of the road.
Mm-hmm.
So now there are three places where they must have put a drainage in. The third one's starting to collapse. And I don't know who did the work, but all three of them
I-
are not very good.
I appreciate, Alan, you got a handle on that?
I do.
You have a handle on it, right?
I do.
You get what you pay for.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Okay, a motion, a second, any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Bennett?
I would just like to applaud Alan for his efforts and what he's doing. I expect nothing less from him, my experience as a selectman, with him as a department head. And on the street smart thing, it's good to see to go that route, and I hope you do. For years and years, and a lot of time, it's a highway superintendent, he comes to the selectman meeting, we need a list of roads that you plan on working on. And he comes up with a list, and the work starts, and then elections happen, the board changes, and this road's more important, and if you go this route and you put that in place, it'll be a good plan. And I believe when Winchendon did it, some of the roads that they thought should be done before these others, it changed
Mm-hmm.
their outlook, because the roads that they thought were real bad weren't as bad as they thought, and it puts a good plan in place, and I applaud Alan's efforts.
It's
Excellent.
fair.
I like that we're having a good conversation with the light and the water and the sewer department, and that we're really coming together and developing a good game plan, so I
Absolutely.
appreciate that
Well, I would
on
like
all
to-
sides.
I would like to thank Carter for his efforts,
Yeah.
working with me on the
Yep.
pavement management and some of those things. He's been instrumental in helping that.
Yep, we're coming back. Okay, a motion, a second, any other discussion? I see none. Karen?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes,
And I vote yes as well. Next motion?
I think,
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
would respectfully request that the board authorize me to seek Chapter 90 funds for items 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the amounts as set forth in Alan's memo, and authorize me to expend up to 10% additional in contingencies, provided I report to the board the use of any contingencies, within a short time after I've done so.
So moved. Second?
second.
Any other discussion? I see none. Cam?
Yes.
Doug? Diane?
Yes,
And I vote yes as well.
thank you, Alan, thank you,
And I
Carter.
have one other just FYI for the board and for Carter as well. I have gotten into the Complete Streets porthole and submitted our complete streets policies. So I will wait to hear back from the state on those. And
Did
that's
you say
moving forward.
porthole or pothole?
Porthole. It's a website.
I'm thinking in my head, you went into the Complete Streets pothole, I'm like, okay.
Porthole.
That's the incomplete streets program.
So wait, you go, it's like a portal?
It's a portal.
Yeah, you
it's a
actually
state
gotta
portal.
go in on the internet and submit documents and,
Really?
yeah.
That's
So we've
awesome.
got that done.
And you get the copies up here, correct?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
don't need, you're all set, right?
I am.
All right, perfect.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Thanks,
Something
Alan.
else up.
I appreciate it.
needed a laugh.
Medex rates, Mr. Tanzini?
Yes, as you know, Mr. Chairman, prior to March of last year, the town had used a legacy Medex program for its retirees, by which the prescriptions were actually covered as part of the insurance plan. We changed that to a Medex 2 with a Part D, whereby we rely upon the Medicare program to cover those prescriptions. That had a roughly $40,000 savings in the last, a portion of that in the last fiscal year and then this fiscal year. We do move to a calendar year under this new plan because we are tied to Medicare. The rate of increase for 2019 is 0%.
Great.
It has done what we wanted to do. I think that you're going to find that your trend rate on this particular element of your plan will now drop because what you've done is you've taken those prescriptions, which tend to inflate at 6, 8, 10, 12%, and that piece has been pushed out of your insurance plan and been pushed onto the Medicare side. So we're certainly very happy with this for calendar 19, and I would respectfully ask the board to authorize the chairman to accept the renewal for 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? See none, Kim?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Response to the open meeting complaint dated August 29th of 2017.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to send this back to the one Mr. Jeffrey Bennett, and to be signed by the chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Actually, let me amend that.
Amend it.
It's signed by the Board of Selectmen, not the chairman of the Board of
That's
Selectmen.
correct.
Right. We have a clean copy for your signature here tonight.
Great. I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? I see none, Kim?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. The,
Unfortunately, I got left out of the packet.
the non-union merit and equality raises, equity
Well,
raises.
first, Mr. Chairman, let me apologize. I'm not sure how this happened, but when your packages were assembled, my cover memo and the breakdown were not in your package. I think I can touch upon it fairly quickly, once that paperwork made it down.
That's, geez, sorry.
As you know, the fiscal year 19 budget contained $10,000 to cover merit and equity pay raises. It had originally been my intent to let the distribution await a new administrator. However, given that we're now 3 months into the fiscal year, I determined to address this now. I am asking the board to transfer $7,875 to cover these. And let me now move, if I might, for a moment, to the spreadsheets. I met, you do not have a formal evaluation form and policy, so what I did was I met with each department head to talk about their employees and talk with them about their performance that they had observed of their employees, whether or not each was, in their opinion, worthy of a merit and performance raise, and spoke to them in terms of equity. That is, we have a number of positions that are far below the marketplace, and while we certainly need to try to catch up with the marketplace at some point, my most immediate concern was the internal equity. So what you can see is the last name, first name in the department, their title, what their rate was as of June 30 of 17, and what I'm proposing as of 10/1 and 17. So for the first individual, they actually have two separate rates. We're really not supposed to be doing that, because technically that makes it look like they have two separate jobs. And so for one of those jobs, I've proposed that increase there. The next one, and I, go down through there, you can see that that position is paid $13.86. That is substantially below what that type of position would be going for. And in fact, the average is $15. I happen to have a wage study from the town of Winchendon, and so with just that increase, we can at least get them to the average. The next position is substantially below the foreman in other units and the foreman in other areas, and in fact, we had the potential to actually lose that person. And Alan and I spoke, and we were hopeful that this would be sufficient, that they would see our good faith in trying to move them into a market equity position. And that's kind of how it went down. You'll see the footnotes that I put there in the two positions that, after discussion with the department heads, were not being recommended for raises at this point in time. Your personnel policy calls for an annual performance review, yet your system has not created one and established a process. It also calls that merit increases to be approved for the next fiscal year. Theoretically, you would then do your reviews in June or July or something, and you would hopefully, because it also talks about doing the increases on anniversary. So there's a real disconnect under that theory. If someone had an anniversary in December, you would do their increase then, but not give them their raise until July of the next year. So we did our best to work with the tools that we had available. I hope you'll see that there at least was some structure to it. I think that the provisions and certainly the annual performance review process does need some work, as I hope you'll recognize. And I'm respectfully asking you to waive the provisions of Section 3, G, 3B, and C of the town's personnel policy, and to approve the budgetary transfers as proposed on this chart that I've given you for the rates to be effective October 2, 2017. I do understand that having, for whatever reason, them omitted from the package, I certainly would understand if you would want to table this to your next meeting, Mr. Chairman. And we would then just make these retroactive.
Thank you, Mr. Tanzini.
Did we get, I didn't waive the provisions section.
Well, the personnel policy, the question is about waiving the provisions. Your personnel policy says you're going to do performance reviews on their anniversary date.
We don't have that.
You don't have that process.
Oh, yeah,
Then it says you're going to
that's right.
give them the raises in the next fiscal year. That's also not the process that you have. So I think that in order for this to be
Sorry.
properly done, I want to be forthright and point out to you that this is the way it's supposed to be done. I think there's some real questions of how we move from where we are to what your intent was in that section of the personnel policy. I'd also point out that
Oh, you
staying.
mean the personnel policies that were cut up by the lawyer and approved by the, yeah,
That could be the ones.
yeah.
I'll
So I'm pretty
also-
sure we should waive that.
I'll also point out that if you do someone's evaluation in September of 17 and don't give them a raise until July of 18, that's such a disconnect.
Yeah,
It's-
that's
It's
pretty
meaningless.
terrible.
It's completely meaningless.
That's all right, I'll be
You've
quiet.
got to close that gap between when you do these reviews and when you tell people what they meant.
Anyway,
Mr.
I would like to make a motion to waive the provisions of Section 3G, 3B, and C of the town's personnel policy and approve the budgetary transfers as proposed on Exhibit A of the Town Administrator's Memorandum of September 19th, 2017, and authorize the implementation of the pay rates as proposed on Exhibit B of said memo to be effective October 2nd of 2017.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Oh, that's Carter for doing all that.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
speak to Mr. Terenzini. The money for this totaling, the amount listed below, that is taken care of? Where is this coming from?
In your budget, there's an intergovernmental line item of $10,000.
Yep.
So what I did was I looked at these raises, knowing I was constrained by an annual payment of $10,000. When you apportion it out over the remaining 9 months, it's roughly this 78, 75. So we're using less than what is being, what was budgeted. But I kept that number in mind because you got to be able to sustain it next year. So to give $10,000 out in raises for 9 months, and then next year have to carry those rates in the budget for 12 months would put you out of alignment.
Okay.
So I looked at being able to sustain it.
Okay, excellent. And I do just want to make the commentary that, I mean, looking at these wages here, we are well below market equity for a lot of these jobs, and that's sad and disheartening, and it's almost to the point where, you know, I gotta thank them for their selfless service at this point of what they're getting paid. And hopefully we can continue to increase this and bring these people up to market equity, you know, in the relative future.
I agree. Mr. Spring?
Just a question. Does the board really think it's prudent to take and end up doing it at this particular time? I'm not saying that we shouldn't do this at all, but we haven't had the audits yet, and the DOR has already identified that we're going to end up having, if we don't have free cash, we're going to end up having to reduce the budget. That has an impact on not only these individuals, but the entire staff. I mean, I'm not against giving the individual raises that they can get them out. It's that, are we prudent? I mean, we have to come up with $211,000 according to the DOR, and if we don't get that in free cash, it's coming out of the budget. That's a big impact. Until we know that, it might be better to take and put it off. The other thing is, my understanding is that the DOR is also looking at other stuff. They may end up coming up with some additional monies that have to be put out before we can end up moving ahead with this, and that will also impact either the budget or our ability to take and end up getting a bond for the school. So I would prefer that the selectmen look at this and maybe put this off for a while until the audits are there, and we know where we stand a little bit better financially, and that we're not impacting the present budget before we move forward. Waiting a couple of months isn't gonna be a big deal. Waiting till July, it might be. I have to agree with Mr. Terenzini. You don't wanna take and end up waiting a whole year. The document that was on the site indicated that it was going to some departments that appeared, because we don't have the same documents you did, that it was on the website, that appeared that some of the people that had already got raises from the annual town meeting effective July are also gonna be getting some additional monies. So, I mean, I think you really need to weigh those two things in as to when you wanna really end up allocating this out to see where we are. That's my input as a question. Is it prudent for us to do that?
I appreciate your input, I really do. I think, you know, input is great, but be rest assured that with the staff that's here in place, the financial staff here in place, Mr. Tanzini, working with the Department of Revenue and all the staff through the DLS, rest assured that things are working in the right direction and this is not gonna impact. Yes?
I just want to speak on behalf of a department head who has recently tried to hire individuals, and when your staff is already low, it is difficult to entice anybody to apply. And you can't obviously start somebody new at more or the same amount that you already have employees working 10 years. So just, it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, we are looking at all that, between what the rates are, but yes.
I know of a department head that didn't get a raise last time around. Why aren't you giving department heads raises if they didn't receive them last time?
I'm
Mr.
not, I'm
Chairman.
not really sure what you're referring to.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, this isn't in regards to overall pay scale and market equity. We're talking about, helping hands for the cemetery, for the DPW. We're talking about van drivers that could go elsewhere and find considerable market equity in any type of one of these jobs. Without going into any details of any of the salaries and hourly wages here, the department heads and the market equities at that point is not what we're actually determining here. If we wanted to increase a department head salary to market equity, we're talking about stretching a large sum. This is $10,000, which, to Will's point, to be prudent, this is half of 1%. That is the overall budget affected. This is to kind of a bone, if you will, to these people who are well below market equity. It's kind of something where it's sad. And I don't see where saving $10,000 in over this course is even considered. The department, back to the department head, I don't see the argument there either.
Our librarian's been here for 20 years. She didn't get a raise. She got 3 more hours that she has to work a week, but she didn't get an increase in her hourly rate, or however you want to look at it. So if somebody just walked in the door, it doesn't seem the least bit fair to me.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I personally don't like discussing
All right, well.
this,
Like
like, in a-
position,
Well,
yeah.
why are
doesn't
we
matter
doing
who it
this?
is.
Stop,
Right.
please.
We,
What I'm saying is we have a longtime employee. I don't care who it is.
Did the librarian come to you and discuss that with
No,
you?
I did, she did not.
Okay, then I would prefer not to have this discussion publicly.
Fine.
Thank you.
okay, moving on.
We have a motion on the table.
And we do. And we have a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Kim?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
I'll abstain.
I vote yes. Thanks, Doug, appreciate that.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug. I didn't even catch it off, so. Okay, going into the 2017 Fall Town Meeting. Mr. Tantin, do you have the dates?
I don't believe, no, I don't
Okay.
believe so. Mr. Chairman, over the past couple of weeks, we have been working on the schedule for the Fall Town Meeting. We did meet with the Department of Revenue on this past Thursday, including our financial advisor. They believe we are on track. I did prepare a full, 2.5-page memo today on all of the various meeting minutes. And we should have free cash certified in plenty of time
Good.
For the Fall Town Meeting. So we're requesting that you set the meeting date as November 14th, that you open the warrant for that meeting here tonight and close it as of the close of business on Tuesday, October 10th.
That's 7 PM.
No,
Or-
Close of business here would be 4:30.
No,
Oh, the meeting
no,
itself, 7
No,
PM.
I'm sorry, so we're gonna, okay, so I make a motion to set the Fall Special Town Meeting for November 14th at 7 PM at the Safka Auditorium at 424 Baldwinville Road. Is that everything?
Well, you need to formally open the warrant and set a formal.
First I have to open the warrant?
closing.
Okay, excuse me. I make a motion to open the warrant
For the November 14th.
for the no,
Yeah,
oh
let
my
me, let me,
gosh.
let me back up if I might. All the rest of it can be handled in the warrant itself. I would respectfully request a motion to set the Fall Town Meeting for November 14th, 2017, and to open the warrant for said meeting with a closing date as of the close of business on October 10, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Kim?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
Sorry.
And this is part of the municipal calendar online?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, it has to be.
Will it be?
Yeah,
Thank you,
we'll get the notice up by the close of business tomorrow.
thank you.
We have to in order to meet the 14 days.
I know, I understand, I just want that, I want the municipal calendar updated, that's all. The IMATA update, Cameron, you wanna take that?
Yeah, so me and Diane had met to finalize the IMA agreement with Mike Barbaro and Audrey Labrie. We had discussed, we had made revisions, and Winchendon had their meeting last Monday, I believe. And unfortunately, they declined to bring it to the town meeting, and they had decided to drop the agreement altogether. I think comments from Mike Barbaro stated that Templeton was not, that Winchendon was not ready to move forward with the deal. Mr. Hickey was a proponent of the deal, and from the overall environment of that meeting, I guess Winchendon's public was not feeling very comfortable with the idea. So, lack of a better phrase, the deal is killed, and we are back to the start of where we were.
Great.
I would like to make a motion to dissolve the subcommittee for the exploring the intermunicipal with Winchendon.
I have a motion of a second.
Second.
A motion second. Any further discussion concerning that?
I would like to state that I think we should keep the line of communication open. Although it is an IMATA subcommittee, I think we still need to meet one last time to close out. Diane, if you don't want to attend, that's fine.
No, they dissolved theirs.
They did dissolve?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They opened up like a, I don't know, like some kind of, I
know
I
they
forget
had-
what they called it, but they dissolved their committee.
Okay. 'cause I know
They did,
had
I read
reached
that in
out
the paper.
to
so.
us, asking for a
They just,
meeting.
they said that the public could join like some kind of exploration committee or whatever.
Okay. All right.
If I brought the newspaper with me, I would read it
It's
to you,
in here.
but,
Yeah, it's
oh, I'm
tapped.
sorry.
It's in the packet.
But it's in there.
Did you read, like, it was at the end. Where's, I don't know where mine is.
Yeah,
was
disband
on
the
the-
current committee and form an ad hoc committee to develop ideas for regionalization in the future.
Barbaro argued that oh, I'm sorry. They also decided to disband the current committee and form an ad hoc committee to develop ideas for regionalizing in the future. Anyone interested in a seat at the table, so they did disband.
Okay.
So that's the reason that I said
I have a
that.
motion?
It's
Do I
not
have-
that I don't want to explore, I just want to do, I
Certainly.
just want ours to be done.
We get a second?
So I have a motion, do I have a second?
Yeah, Doug, second.
Second.
Okay, great. Any other discussion? Disbanding the subcommittee, I see none.
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. We're on chapter 40 rights for the first refusal of 18 Water Wheel Circle. Mr. Tenzini?
This is just like the last several that you've had in front of you.
Mhm.
These are affordable housing units under Chapter 40B.
Yep.
You have the right of first refusal to purchase it. If you waive that right, they then must pay you any overage above the excess.
Understood.
And that's what you've been doing so far because we don't have any cash on hand to do that. I do want to point out that of the 31 40B units you had in Daymill in the beginning, you will be, once this is sold, there will probably be down to 22 units. So your count's going down. And I did suggest in my report that you may want to consider looking at assembling some dollars to begin to exercise some of these rights of first refusal as affordable workforce housing, and to keep these in your 40B count. That's something you could do in the future,
Mhm.
but you do have to act upon this this evening.
Understood.
I make a motion to approve, oh, no, sorry.
Waive the right of first
I make a
refusal.
motion to waive the right of I can't talk today. To waive the right of first refusal for 18 Water Wheel Circle.
So a
Second.
motion, I have a second, thank you for the second, I appreciate it. Any discussion concerning the
Just
40B
go
right
on
of
now.
first refusal, 18 Water Wheel Circle? I see none, Kim?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Regarding Winchendon Transfer Station offer. Mr. Tangini?
Winchendon maintains its own transfer station, as you may know. They do run it as a enterprise fund, so it's based upon actual usage. There's a $50 annual permit, and then it's $4 a bag on the 33-gallon and a lesser amount on the other. What they have offered is to allow Templeton residents and taxpayers to use their transfer station at the posted rates without any contribution by the town itself. So there would be no cost in our budget. And for those Templeton folks that thought it would be a lower cost alternative to perhaps a curbside collection that they now have, or that they have periodic bulk wastes that they want to get rid of that they're not able to do so now, or they don't want to await our bulky waste days. What I'm seeking is your authorization, working with our town clerk to sell some small amount of the bags, if we can work that out without any great complication in the permits, here at Town Hall. And if that isn't workable, people would have to buy them in Winchendon, at Winchendon Town Hall or at the transfer station. But I didn't want to proceed with this without bringing it in front of you for your authorization for us to proceed. This initially came up, by the way, Alan Mayo, as you know, early on, put together a, kind of a chat and chew, if you will, some coffee and some donuts here. And
Chat and chew, is that what
chat
you
and
call
chew, sure.
Never heard that phrase.
Never heard, a lot of phrases you've never heard before you worked with me, probably. But Alan's done a good job of chatting with the local DPW directors, and this came out of a conversation that they had that then got elevated up to their town manager, and I think he mentioned it to you and Diane when you were up there for the last meeting. So it's an opportunity for your residents and taxpayers, and at the worst is we might have some of the materials available here at Town Hall, if we can do it and it doesn't prove much of an inconvenience to the town clerk's staff.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. Do you guys have an issue with that?
No, I think it's awesome that we can offer the residents another service.
Number two, let's go Bob.
I would request your authorization to notify the town of Winchendon that you have accepted their kind offer, and I'll work with the town clerk to determine if we're able to make materials available here for sale. And if not, people will simply buy the items in Winchendon.
Would we need like an MOA or something?
I think that what we can probably do, I don't think we need a full formal IMA. I'll certainly check
Okay.
with council on that, but certainly if we do go to make offering of sales here, we'll just have a simple letter agreement between Mr. Hickey and myself.
Sounds good to me.
How they'll give us materials and how we'll pay them and account for them.
Excellent. Excellent.
But I'll check on whether or not you, council thinks we need a formal IMA.
You sure? Action referrals to workshop.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I would like to recommend that we put the financial policies and the town hall hours and days discussion to a further workshop to be held at your discretion when you'd like to add them.
Excellent.
Are we gonna set,
You have a workshop coming up for
On Monday?
October 2nd, this coming Monday. And on your town meeting countdown, you'll notice there was a special workshop set for November 16th to review the draft warrant. To the extent, depending upon how complex the warrant is, we'd probably add some other items to that as well.
Understood.
Yeah, I'm good with moving those.
Okay, great. I have, on Monday, the agenda for the workshop on Monday should be out on Thursday.
Yes, we've got a draft, we've got to pare it down to something that's achievable.
Okay. Mainly I would assume the policies.
I've got to go back and look.
Okay. Okay.
We've got to concentrate on the things that
Yep.
get us in the run-up to the budget process.
Understood. Okay. Thank you so much. So I guess we'll take care of that on Monday. Old business, 0, nothing at this point. Public comment? Yes, Will?
Well, get back to this. It's nice that Winchendon offered this as an enterprise that they have. You might consider during your workshop is maybe we should be looking at that, because if they have it as an enterprise and they're offering to us, it must be self-sustaining and might bring in some income. I mean, that's not a bad thing that they can bring some additional income. My other comment is that this board has taken a lot of heat as far as transparency. I'd like to applaud the last 2 times on the website, the documents that have been put there. I think that's a step in the right direction. We still have a long way to go, but I think that type of thing will end up helping the citizens understand what it comes before the board, and they can end up saying here, and maybe they will end up participating more. So I applaud the fact that, I'm not sure who's responsible for doing that, but I take it that the chairman is, so I applaud you and the board for at least attempting to do that and working in the right direction.
Thank you, Will. It's definitely a group effort, and we take everything to heart, and we want to make sure everybody knows what's going on. Yes, Mr. Bennett.
At an advisory committee meeting on September 6th,
Mhm.
a resident came and informed the committee that back in October 30th, 2016, he had sent a letter to the chairman of the board voicing his concerns and basically asking the question if the town could return to the annual town report format of times gone by. His concern was the lack of reporting as required by town bylaws and Mass General laws of both the treasurer and the accountant. And it used to be, there were salaries, all the employees' salaries of the school and the town, the debt, the investments of the trust funds. And he basically stated that for 6 years, it's been, been patient, wait on the audits, this and that. His point was, you don't have to have audits to report on the spending of town money that, say, is appropriated at town meeting and spent throughout the year. That can be reported. His question was, why is that not being done as required by both town bylaw and Mass General law? And his thought was, one of his points was, by doing that, it could instill or reinstill confidence in the town government of the citizens. So my question is, and I don't know, he didn't say, all he said was he had sent this, 106 pages of documentation to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and he didn't hear back from you. And I don't know if it fell through the cracks or what, but.
106 pages? I think I remember
Well,
receiving that. I don't remember.
There's a cover letter to it that asks a couple of direct questions, And
We can talk after this meeting offline. Do you have something to add?
No.
Okay, good. Because what's gonna happen, you'll see some changes, that's all I'm gonna tell you right now. You will see some drastic
it's
changes.
just,
You're gonna see some changes,
comes to
Jeff.
another committee
I got you.
to make the point.
After this, we'll have a discussion after this, okay? Anything else to add concerning that? Yes.
I just have a question. When are you going to be taking up the question of the town administrator?
That is a fantastic question.
Well, I
That-
thought we were
that is-
gonna,
That is a great question. I can tell you this, that probably most likely tonight, we're probably gonna go into an executive session, which is listed here, and we might have some discussion concerning that. When I get to that point, we probably won't be, we'll come out, but we won't be coming out to an open session. We'll just come out to open session to close the meeting. Yes?
As another question, you have a workshop. Is this one of the workshops that you were looking for the advisory committee to take and end up attending that, or was that?
No, not this one, not this one. The advisory committee will be notified.
That we're in sync here.
No, you're on the Gantt chart. You'll start seeing, once we start adding
I don't know.
the workshops,
Yeah.
you'll start seeing those in the Gantt chart. I'll work with the rest of the board, okay? Anything else?
But just make sure the notification comes
Oh,
in
of
time
course.
so we can end up
Oh, of course.
posting it. That's all I'm
Yep,
looking at.
no, of course. I mean, we're not gonna leave you hanging. Yes?
Follow-up question. You're gonna be going into potentially into executive session. Did you talk about that? And then if you come out and you don't,
Yes.
you don't announce it or anything like that, you're not gonna announce anything afterwards.
Wouldn't we?
But when will you actually?
Announce it?
Yeah, do something.
Why wouldn't we?
Well, because it's still gonna be in negotiations and contract negotiations, and we don't know what's gonna happen.
Oh. Okay.
Could be a potential.
It could be a potential, but I don't wanna, I wanna make sure that the people understand. I don't know what's gonna transpire out of this executive session, so,
Oh, I just wouldn't say that we,
I'm just saying that we're not coming out to make a vote on anything at this point, because we have to wait to see.
oh,
That's all I'm saying. I mean, I'm not trying to be, because again, I don't know what's gonna come out of the executive session.
okay.
Under the discussion that we're discussing of a non-union employee.
I think to add to her point, she's looking whether or not you will be coming out to take and end up out of the executive session into an open session before you close.
Yeah, we have
I
to,
mean, that's-
we do
Yeah.
have to do that, but we won't be making any motions at that point, other than to close
Okay.
the meeting.
I mean, that's what she's looking at her.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm looking for.
I know what
when
you're,
you might
I know
be
what you're
coming
looking
out
for.
something in the
Yeah, I understand. It might be in the near future. Yes,
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Chair, just a follow-up to an observation that was made earlier. But the documentation that's presented on the Board of Selectmen's agenda.
Yep.
And the paper, I guess, the backup paperwork that you use to make the decisions.
Mhm.
If things are introduced during the meeting, will those be added after, or are those?
yes, of course. I mean, it has, yeah, because again, that becomes public information, public knowledge.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You're making a commitment that is now gonna tax the staff. I would appreciate an opportunity to chat with you about that. Unless that is the vote of the board, that whatever supplemental materials are distributed at a board meeting will be amended in some fashion, because we're using the agenda posting system to put all this up. I'm not sure there's a way to do that other than reposting everything.
Oh, okay, I see what you're
Let's
saying.
take that under advisement.
Yeah, I'll have to take that. Good question. Can I get back to you on that?
Sure.
All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman?
yes,
Anything that's talked during the meeting can be added to when you post your meeting minutes and added to a documentation. You have that ability, once you post it on the system, to put a document that's been brought forward that you might have not had as listed as agenda. So you can end up doing that, maybe at a later date.
I appreciate that. I'm gonna take that under advisement with the other Board of Selectmen, and we'll discuss that and at another time and date. Any other discussion, any other public comments? Any board and staff comments?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Doug.
Go ahead, Tom.
So, Carter's been helping me work on the bylaw changes, that I wanna propose. Just gave me back another revision tonight that I need to review,
Mhm.
but I think, it's probably most appropriate to discuss it at a workshop rather than a meeting, so.
Okay.
It'll be ready for Monday? We have a workshop Monday?
Yes.
Yeah, so
I don't know
again,
what it's on my
if you
calendar.
wanna have it Monday, I can certainly talk about it then, or if it's more appropriate at a different one, because I don't know what the agenda is. So if it fits into the agenda for Monday, that's fine.
I'll work with
If we need
Karen.
to do it on another one, that's fine too.
No problem. Thank you, Deb. Diane?
Well, I didn't get to go, but I heard that Motorpalooza was awesome.
It was.
So then I just wanted to give the community an update of Jamie and Daniel Lemieux, who had come and asked the board nervously about wood chips for their property, and that through the efforts of personal donations and also through the efforts of the school and some other business owners, we were able to raise the money, and they were able to deliver the wood chips, and the school athletics department and other people will be laying and spreading the wood chips for them. And they just really wanted to thank the community and how much they feel a part of that, and how humbled they are they're honored and they're thrilled to be, that they were able to come and for all the generosity. So they're gonna lay those on Thursday, and I'm happy that that she came forward and that we were personally able to help her and all the people who reached out to all of us.
That was good.
So, thank you.
They're all coming together. Yes, Will?
Talking about the wood chips, I think that was nice that the
Mr.
board, some
Chairman,
of the board members
if
stepped
I
up.
may, this is for
My
staff
concern
and
is-
board member comments.
No, I understand that, but.
My concern is this, is that, and again, I'm sorry I missed it on the public comments, but you have a playground out here, there is no wood chips. And observation by one of the townspeople that relayed this to me, that it was in deplorable condition, where at the end of the slide, where, the town is liable if.
Will.
Well, I understand.
Stop, John. Mr. Spring, this was, I have asked Mr. Mayo, I would like to do the same thing here that we did at Templeton Center, but we can't right now. I've asked if there are grants. I would like to have a playground and a picnic area out here, but this was, we could not help her, as.
I understand.
So I don't want to confuse the two with the community, that this was a personal project and no one on the board had to contribute. There were people in the audience. I just don't want to, people who play here, Alan has taken down some equipment that was unsafe, but we can't put anything here because we can't afford it.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to add that to the next agenda
Yeah,
item, then we can
we
do
can
that.
talk about
We can
that,
discuss it
but
then,
No,
okay?
the
don't
only
wanna
reason I brought it up
confuse
is
the
that it was brought forth to me that Alan had said that he understands that it has to be on all playgrounds, and we
Yeah,
have a
we
playground
can't.
that we're liable for here, and it's
I know,
nothing.
unfortunately, because when that playground was in, I'm not gonna get into discussion with it, because when it was built, we're grandfathered at this point,
Yeah.
at this time. So, yeah, does it need to be replaced? Of course it does. It'll be right to the playground standards when that happens. But I will definitely put that on the next agenda. We can have more discussion concerning that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion at this point for board comments?
I would like to say that there is I passed around earlier,
Yes.
that packet right there that Kelly had
Yeah, I
done the
haven't looked
reconciliation.
at it yet.
Okay, I reviewed it with Kelly on those. Carter can probably fill you in on them as well. Another excellent job by Kelly and staff, treasurer collector and Mr. Terenzini.
And what is that?
For that.
Can you explain what
This
that
is
is?
the thing that we do
That's
monthly?
that's the reconciliation
Oh,
packet of
the
all
monthly reconciliation.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
excellent.
So-
Excellent.
So I do want to say that this
Tom,
is a step in
didn't
the
you sign
right
I did.
direction.
I already read it. I read it with them.
You signed it, you didn't know what you signed?
Oh, I know what, I want the public to
Yeah.
know that these are being done, and the reconciliations monthly for the previous month were signed, for last month now. So those are being done monthly.
And I think it gives us an excellent chance to kind of get a grasp on what the outstanding errors are and what actions Kelly's taking internally to fix them.
That's right.
Without actually breathing down her neck and asking if she can inform us on
And she's
her
doing a great
pace.
job. Okay, anything else? Great, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I do not need an executive session with respect to litigation.
You don't.
Unless board members have questions, I have nothing new to bring to your attention on litigation.
I would like to request an executive session per Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21.2, with respect to negotiation with non-union personnel. And we will come back into open session only to close the public session. Oh, my God.
Excellent.
What's wrong with
Motion,
me
do I have a
today?
second?
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? See none? Kim?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you all for coming, I really do appreciate